stopping by. My name is Philadelphia, and today I'm going to do the review on The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls. So Jeanette Walls is the main character in this story. She covers her life through a series of stories that really depict how she grew up and what made her into the person she is today. I will warn you, this isn't a feel-good story for the most part. There is some trigger warning. There's discussions of extreme poverty, alcohol, addiction, untreated mental health, I would say, is a big one. You know, family drama and dynamics there. I could see how it could be triggering for some people. So I would stop here if you haven't read the book and you don't want to get spoiled, because I'm just going to go over some of the things I enjoyed about this book and a couple of the cons. So a large portion of the story takes place in West Virginia, and I don't know if many of you know this, but I'm actually from West Virginia. I grew up there, lived there for about 23 years. And anytime West Virginia is mentioned in any book, you kind of feel tied to it just because it's one of those places that's not talked about often, and it has such a bad reputation. And this book doesn't really help the reputation of West Virginia by any means, but it does give you some insight into some of the challenges that people in this state face. It is one of the poorest states in the United States. I have a soft spot for stories that take place in West Virginia because it truly is a great state. You know, there are parts of West Virginia that are so wonderful and so untouched by the rest of the world. Strangers say hello to each other. If you have a car problem, you'll have like 5 cars stop and try to help you. So I do think there's a lot of good in West Virginia, but you know, there are some issues that definitely need addressed, and this book really shows you some of them. I really enjoyed the mental hoops that I had to go across. She really depicts her parents in a realistic way. They aren't painted as these horrible people. She makes you sympathetic to the mom and dad. You know, they weren't 100% good and they weren't 100% evil, and I think that's how everyone is. And we all battle our demons, and sometimes they overtake us. And I think, you know, this family was just unfortunate where they didn't have a great support system to help them. I don't think they had the mental wherewithal to care for their children. I mean, the dad was an extreme alcoholic that was really trying to battle some post-trauma that was unresolved. I'm not a mental health profession, but you know, reading this book, you could tell that the mom had some sort of mental health issues. I mean, she seemed very depressed at the point where she couldn't get out of bed, and you know, she would have these really strong mood swings, and it just got worse as she got older. You know, they cared for their children the best that they could mentally, do. I mean, in a way, I don't think they chose to be terrible people and have their kids starve. They had tons of opportunities to get out of the situation they're in. But when you're in that far in and you're in that dark headspace and you don't have the support or the medication to turn it around, I just don't think they knew how. Mentally, they just couldn't see the problem with the way that they were living. And so it's easy to paint people as good guys and bad guys, but sometimes it just doesn't work that way. Even though I was frustrated many times in this book because there were so many times when the parents had the option to do better by their child and they didn't. But at the same time, they did create certain memories that were really unique. I don't know, can you forgive the parents for neglecting their children overall? I mean, they are adults, they brought them in the world, that was their responsibility. So it really does a good job at making you sympathetic to the antagonist. And I think that's just life. I mean, we always make excuses for the people we love, and things aren't black and white. Maybe in an alternate universe, things could be different if it was today's time where mental health isn't such a stigma. And I like how she kind of hits on the mental health, but it's not super obvious. She just tells stories about her mother's behavior, you know, with the time period and their economic situation. you know, mental health isn't a priority, because if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you are not going to the doctor to talk about your feelings. I also found it interesting the way the story is told, because in the beginning of the book, there's a lot of positive feelings about her childhood, even though some traumatic events did happen. But as she got older, those stories became more negative and they were less positive. And I wonder if that's just because she was starting to grow up and you become less forgiving as you get older, or you know, you just get tired of hearing the stories and not seeing any actionable proof behind the words that her parents were telling her. I think it's just a common theme that people experience as they get older. They get a little bit more negative because they just get let down more and more. I mean, I didn't have too many cons in this book. I just don't think I was in the right headspace or mood to read this story when I did. I read this story the week of the election and I was just like, I need something uplifting. This is getting me down a bit. But I did finish it. It was a little slow in some parts, I will say that. I was just constantly getting infuriated by the parents. One thing that's not really addressed in the book that I had a question on was property tax. How is she paying the property tax on $1 million property during this whole time? I do recommend the story. I think it really shows the complexities of human beings and how we're not all good and we're not all bad, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't, and how we're not always in control of like the reality. Sometimes we live in this fantasy, whether it be because of addiction or something traumatic that happened in the past or some mental health issue. We aren't really set up for success, and it's just how we break those barriers. I think this story really just shows you to be compassionate and to know that not everyone is good, not everyone's bad, and that people have redeeming qualities, and to just treat people with some dignity even though they're in a rough spot. Because I think that was the hard part of seeing, is how poorly she was treated by her peers when she was younger just because she was poor. And I think it makes a world of difference saying hello and being nice to people that might be below you in your class. Think about all the homeless people that you pass when you walk down the streets downtown. A lot of the times you avoid eye contact. Think how damaging that is to their spirit. I mean, they're not even treated like human beings that are suffering, that could maybe need some help, that, I mean, they just made too many wrong decisions and they ended up in this spot and now they don't know how to get out of it. And yes, maybe they made decisions compulsively and they always get back in that spot, but that's life. Some people are just wired differently, and if they could do it all over again, they might still choose the same path, and we just have to accept that and just be a nice human. I will say that this book reminded me a lot of Educated by Tara Westover. So if you did enjoy that book, you might like Educated and vice versa. So I give this book 4 stars, and just know that it's a heavy read. Since that was a little heavier, I was like, I need something that looks cheesy and a little light. So I ordered the book, The Hating Game, and that came in the mail yesterday. So I'm starting that one. And then I'm reading The Vanishing Half as well during this month. Those will be my 2 reviews that I have coming out after this. Thank you for listening to me. I know I rambled a little bit on this one. And remember to hit that subscribe button so you get that little notification when I post a new video on my latest reviews. Remember to like the video and leave your comments below. Go find me on Instagram. My handle is Philly Hewitt. And have a great day. Bye.